We've all been there, right? Your project starts growing, the data's flooding in, and that once perfectly simple spreadsheet has turned into, well, a monster. You're scrolling for what feels like miles, you're seeing the same information copied over and over, and you've got that nagging feeling in the back of your mind that one tiny typo could bring the whole thing crashing down. It's that slow slide from order into total chaos, and man, is it frustrating.
If that sounds even a little bit familiar, you are definitely not alone. And here's a number that might just blow your mind. For a ton of professionals, a staggering 80% of their time isn't even spent on the cool stuff, the analysis. Nope, it's spent just trying to clean up the data mess before they can even think about starting the real work.
And look, this isn't just a vague feeling we all have. It's a real, documented problem. Actual statisticians, the pros, report spending most of their work week just wrestling with data, trying to get it into a usable shape. And guess what's often at the scene of the crime? Yep, our good old friend, the common spreadsheet.
So what is the core issue here? What's the fundamental flaw that turns this useful tool into such a massive time sink? Well, it all comes down to something we can call the one-to-many problem. Let's give this thing a name, because once you can name it, you can start to understand it, and more importantly, you can fix it.
Okay, take a look at this. This is what we'd call a flat file. You know, the classic Excel setup. We're tracking subjects in a study and the drugs they're taking. Now look closely. See how for subject number sub-001, their gender and their age are typed in again and again and again for every single drug they're on? That is a textbook one-to-many relationship. One subject can have many prescriptions, and that repetition, that's where all the trouble begins.
So here's where the wheels really start to fall off. What happens when something needs to change? Let's say subject sub-001 just had a birthday and you need to update their age. You can't just change it in one spot. You have to become a detective. Hunt down every single row where that person appears and change it manually. It's slow, it's tedious, and it is the perfect recipe for making a mistake.
But what if I told you there's a much smarter way to handle all this? It just requires a little shift in how we think about our data. We need to stop thinking in one giant list and start thinking in terms of an intelligent web of connected tables. Let's dig into how a different structure completely solves this problem.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the flat database world of Excel, with that one giant, messy, redundant table. But on the right, you have the relational model. Instead of one table, we have multiple smaller linked tables. Now, it might look a little more complicated at first, but trust me, this separation is the absolute key to making your data efficient and accurate.
Now, this powerful process of splitting things up has a fancy name. It's called normalization. But don't let the word scare you. All it really means is taking that one messy table and smartly splitting it into separate focus tables. The goal is super simple. Kill that dangerous repetition and dramatically improve the quality and reliability of your data. So, how does this actually work? Well, we take our original spreadsheet and break it into 3 logical pieces. Think of it like this. First, we create one table that only holds the subject's personal info, their ID, age, gender. That's it. Second, we have a simple lookup list of all the possible drugs. And third, and this is the clever part, we have a super lean table whose only job is to connect a subject ID to a drug ID. Each table does one job and does it perfectly.
You're probably thinking, okay, but how do these separate tables actually stay connected? Great question. The answer is something called a primary key. Just think of it as a totally unique ID for each row in a table, kind of like a social security number for a person. In our subject table, subject num is that primary key. It only shows up once for each person in that main table, but we can use that key to link to them over and over again in other tables. It's the secret sauce holding the entire system together.
And the wins here go way beyond just being neat and tidy. This relational structure is also incredibly efficient. I mean, check this out. Storing the exact same amount of information in a relational way can take up to 55% less storage space. By just getting rid of all that repetition, your database gets smaller, faster, and way easier to manage.
Okay, so our data is now beautifully organized, it's efficient, it's reliable. That's fantastic. But now we get to the really cool part. How do we actually ask it questions? This, my friends, is where we unlock the true power of our data with something called a query.
So what on earth is a query?
The best way I can describe it is as a canned question. You set up the question one time, you design it, and then you can ask it whenever you want. And here's the absolute magic. It's not a static, dead report. A query gives you a live look at your data. So when your data changes, the answer to your query changes right along with it, automatically. You save the question, not the answer. It's brilliant.
Let's just quickly trace how this works. You ask your database, hey, what drugs is subject sub-001 taking? Instantly, the system zips over to the demographics table and finds that person's unique ID. Then it uses that key to find all the matching drug IDs in that little linking table. And finally, it joins that info with the main drug table to get the actual drug names. In a split second, it assembles the complete correct answer for you, a task that in Excel would be a total nightmare of filters and VLOOKUPs.
And just like that, we've made the journey. We've literally gone from a chaotic, messy, error-prone spreadsheet to a system that is clear, powerful, and totally reliable for understanding our information.
So let's just recap the 3 huge wins we get from this. First, efficiency. Our data takes up less space and it's way faster to work with. Second, integrity, because a person's age is only stored in one single place, making an update is easy and you basically eliminate a whole class of errors. And finally, flexibility. With queries, we have the power to explore our data and ask all sorts of complex questions we could never even dream of asking before.
Now, the big thing I want you to take away from this is that it's not just about one program like Microsoft Access. This relational way of thinking is the fundamental engine that powers so many amazing data tools out there, from RedCap and Research Labs to Tableau for making incredible visualizations, and way, way more. Once you get this concept, you're empowered to use all of them more effectively. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Your data, whether it's for your business, your science, or just a personal project, it has a story that is dying to tell. So the real question you have to ask yourself is this: are you giving it the right kind of structure it needs to finally speak clearly?